Well, it's finally here. The DLC we've all been waiting for. The DLC that will only add to the greatest game of all time. Wait, what? What's going on, you guys? It's Jay, and I just beat the new Elden Ring DLC, and I'm actually pretty confused about the DLC's reception. On one hand, I could completely understand a lot of the frustration, especially with certain hitboxes and a few weird performance issues in places where there shouldn't be performance issues, like in boss fights, but I really think most of the content in Shadow of the Erdtree is some of the best content Fromsoft has ever done. The DLC doesn't feel like a DLC, it feels like Elden Ring 1.5, but I really took my time exploring, learning bosses, doing as much of the content I could blind, and I probably got about 40 hours out of it, and I'm ready to jump back in for more. For my first playthrough, I went with the guts build that I used for my Elden Ring video from a while ago. Straight lion's clawed my way through the entire DLC. I love my big swords, and I'm happy I went through the DLC with this build for my first run, but now I'm really excited to go back through again and try a bunch of the new weapons out and all the different builds. The DLC has a lot of great new items and weapons for you to explore and find. But first, really quickly, just want to get this out of the way. There's going to be heavy spoilers in this video. So if you don't want spoilers, what the hell are you doing watching this video? Get back to grinding, my brothers. But anyway, I'm really excited to talk about the DLC, so let's immerse ourselves in the land of Shadow. So I was really excited for the DLC. Like, a little too excited. Just for fun, I replayed the entire game in preparation, especially because I was feeling real rusty. It's been a while since my last Souls video. So the moment the DLC dropped, I went to where we killed the poor son of a bitch Moog, talked to this NPC, and experienced the most amazing step out moment of all time. Like, this moment literally gave me the chills, and I will never forget it. There's just something about seeing all these new environments with so many places to explore that you really just cannot beat the feeling. And the environments in the Land of Shadow are some of the best environments I've ever seen in gaming. The atmosphere here in the DLC is truly unmatched, and it stays that way throughout your entire playthrough. Also, the soundtrack too, from the ambience to the boss music. I don't want to talk about bosses just yet, but Rolana's boss theme was, oh my god, it's so good. They were really able to recapture that feeling we all felt when we first played Elden Ring, and if anything, it's more exciting to explore because there's so many places to go, some right in front of you and some really hidden. Every time I'd revisit a place, there'd be something I missed, like important items or entire new areas, and it felt more exciting because I feel like we all knew what to expect, at least in the exploration aspect. I don't think a lot of people were expecting some of these bosses. I like to read about practically every item I pick up, so I was lucky enough to figure out pretty quickly that I needed those skada tree fragments. This item is what helps you scale in the DLC, so if you don't actively look for these and level up your blessing, you're gonna be in for a rough time. Like, actually, you need these. There's also a similar item for your ashes too, and I'm not quite sure if I really like this mechanic. I get wanting to have the DLC have its own scaling, but there's so many you need to max out your blessing. By the time I got to the end of the DLC, I was level 18 with my blessing, and I did not want to run around to try and find the ones I was missing. But on the other hand, most of them aren't too difficult to find unless you're just running through every area. And I've seen a lot of complaints about people struggling in this DLC. I think the skada fragments have a lot to do with that. I mean, there are some valid complaints that we will get to, but yeah, I don't know, man. I'm really torn on this mechanic. Really quickly, I just want to say they actually buffed the stats on the skadu blessings. They released a patch while I was working on this video. You also don't need max blessing to beat the DLC. Like I said, I beat it at level 18, and that was pre-patch. So take that as you will. I really want to move on to the lore for a second. I've always been super curious about Mikola, and we finally learned the actual story behind him and his intentions. We also learned more about Marika in this DLC too, which I think really helps understand the lore more as a whole. Not saying I knew exactly what was happening, that's what the lore videos are for, but I had a pretty good understanding and it really added to my immersion. And man, it was so easy to be immersed in the Land of Shadow. I don't think I would change a thing about the environments, the lore, the soundtrack. Dare I say it's peak Fromsoft? But alright, I've been yapping about the things that nobody cares about. Let's talk bosses. Yeah, I'm sure everyone will agree with my opinion on every boss. No one will have an issue with my opinion at all. Alright, seriously though, we have to admit, this DLC has some amazing bosses, if not some of the best bosses Fromsoft has ever done. And I actually have a new favorite boss of all time, I think. We aren't going to talk about every boss, just some of the more notable ones. But let's start with everyone's first boss, the Black Jail Knight. fight, the new meme of the DLC. Nah, I'm kidding. He does drop some of the best armor though. I think I used it throughout my entire playthrough. But let's be real, nothing beats this absolutely sick ass strip though. Let's be honest. Best helmet ever. Nah, the first real boss most people will face is the dancing lion. And people have had a bunch of performance issues with this boss. I didn't personally, so I really enjoyed it a lot more. Motherfucker has the scariest roar I've ever heard. This boss was difficult, but not annoyingly so. It really felt like a dance when he was changing between each of the elements, and I think he's a great introduction into the DLC. Really gets you warmed up and absolutely terrified about what's to come, but I can easily see how performance issues could absolutely you in this fight. I also want to say that I try not to use summons when fighting bosses. I didn't use any until the last boss, but that doesn't mean I look down on people who use them. And I don't think I'm better than you because I could beat certain bosses without them. I just really enjoy the challenge of learning attack patterns and really diving into each boss. But this whole anti-summoning and hating on people who use summons is cringe. Just play the game how you want. But let's move on to one of my favorite bosses in the DLC, the Rolana boss fight. Pontiff Sullivan 2.0. This fight absolutely slapped my ass, but man, it was so fun to learn. The second phase is hard, but visually and mechanically so cool. And like I said earlier, it has the best boss theme I have ever heard. It took me a while, and it was a wild ride, and I loved every death. Top tier boss, and I wasn't expecting Renala to have such a cracked out twin sister. All right, next boss I want to talk about is Mesmer. One of the coolest boss designs ever. The intro cinematic is unmatched. He's the poster child of the DLC, and for good reason. And I got insanely lucky with Mesmer. I'm talking insanely lucky. My cat was pissing me off because she was being a when I first walked into the boss room, and she got me killed. After coming back and giving Mesmer a real chance, I beat him first try. I'm not bragging or anything. Like I said, I just got really lucky, and I was shaking by the time I was done. The RNG dodge from above really blessed me, and I'm honestly really looking forward to re-fighting him to actually learn him more, because I barely knew what was going on. Second phase had me shitting bricks. I don't like snakes as it is, but man, what an experience that was. Absolutely loved it. Although, to be fair, I have been hearing some complaints about the hitboxes in the second phase, but it happened so fast, I couldn't really learn all the moves fast enough. Which, speaking of snakes, which I don't like, why the hell did Fromsoft have to create a spider scorpion mob? I've never had an enemy ever give me the heebie-jeebies like these nasty little fuckers did. But alright, we've been gassing up a lot of the bosses. Let's talk about one that actually really pissed me off, and I'm really hoping they fix the hitboxes, because holy shit, Commander Gaius is a bitch. He took me so many tries, probably an hour and a half worth of attempts. He's huge, he hits hard, you can use Torrent, but Gaius and his hog are faster than poor little Torrent. All of this is fine and dandy, but my issue with Gaius is the fact that his charge is the most inconsistent attack to dodge. It felt like a dice roll whether or not it would actually hit me. It seemed a little off to me, and I think he would be a great boss once they actually fix his hitboxes. It was still satisfying to beat him, but yeah, for the time being, fuck that charge, dude. He was probably my least favorite boss in the entire DLC. But we got my least favorite out of the way. Let's talk about my real favorite. Maybe one of my favorite bosses of all time. Thick Boy Bale. Bale the Dread. Holy f***. This boss slapped my ass so many times, and I'm at the point now where I have my strat down to a fucking T. I loved this boss. Everything from the way he looked to his insane AoE mechanics, I loved it. Literally the best dragon fight ever. And I was high on dopamine for so long after beating him too. I'm not sure if that's a hot take. I'm not sure how the community is feeling on him yet, but I never felt like he was broken. His hitboxes could be fixed a little bit, but I wouldn't have a problem if they just left him as is. I just really love this boss fight, dude. There's a whole NPC quest line that has to do with Bale that I started but never finished because I didn't want to summon anyone for it. So I'm really excited to refight him and actually complete that quest line too. But Bale the Dread is a solid 10 out of 10 for me. Seriously though, this DLC has some really peak Fromsoft bosses. All are so uniquely designed with really well thought out mechanics, and all of them have their own compelling lore too. There's just so much here for us Souls fans, and I feel more than satisfied with my experience that Fromsoft has given us. Yeah, there are some annoying hitboxes that will eventually get fixed. Oh wait, I haven't even talked about the final boss yet. The last boss, Radahn, has returned. No longer just a shell of his former self. You fight the real Radahn, Miquella's consort. Weird lore implications aside, this fight is One of a kind, and absolutely the hardest in the DLC. And I've seen some real mixed opinions on the Radahn fight. A lot of people really enjoy the first phase, but the second phase, oh my god, it's brutal. It's brutal on you as a player and your PC as well. There's one ability in this phase that literally tanks my FPS. I go from a perfect 60 down to a 30, and the performance is why I feel so torn on this fight. I really like that we fight Radahn in his peak form, but that second phase is just brutal. Absolutely beatable, but man, he is hard. I'm leaning more so on loving this fight, but I can't overlook the performance issues, especially when it's almost always at the opening of the second phase, a time where we need those frames. I can see some people complaining about how bright and flashy everything is too, which I think that's a fair complaint. I'm not really sure though. I think I'm gonna need to sit on it a little bit longer, maybe fight him a couple more times. But once they fix up Radahn, I really do think he will become an S tier boss. Just needs a little fixing, but it's sick. It's a hard boss, but it really makes you think about your build and strategy. The Golden Braid Talisman is a must for this fight. It is my goal to eventually get him with no summons, but we'll see. Nonetheless, I'm looking forward to trying different strategies and builds against him, especially because he has a weakness to Scarlet Rot. But I think 100% he's a worthy final boss, and he's so close to being right where he needs to be mechanically. Fromsoft just really needs to fix performance in this fight, and I'll be happy. Overall, though, I loved this DLC. I loved the environments, the lore, the bosses, the exploration. There's so much content here, and all for the price of $40 is absolutely insane. I've gotten my money's worth, and I know I'm going to be grinding it even more once I finish this video. I think the mixed score on Steam is understandable when people are complaining about their performance, but difficulty, I think there are so many ways to navigate Elden Ring. Fromsoft gives the player so many tools to use that I don't really think complaints about the DLC being too hard is a valid criticism. A few bad hitboxes aside, if you're stuck on a boss, maybe try some new talismans, try new weapons, use summons. Get good isn't supposed to be an insult. It's supposed to push you to keep going. It's to get you to win by any means necessary. Who cares how you beat a boss? What matters is that you did beat the boss. That's how you get good, man. Not giving up. And that's what Souls-lights are all about. I loved Shadow of the Erdtree. It was absolutely worth the wait. And with a few fixes, I think it'll be even better. If not, close to perfection. I'm excited to dive back in, so I'm going to call the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. I got some other FromSoft videos in my back catalog too, if you liked this video. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.